Labą dieną. Atrodo, viską reikės daugiau lietuviškai šnekėti tada.
It seems like I will have to speak Lithuanian. During the next hour, I will talk about life, not about living foods, but about life. This is because food is a present that you get from the soil, from the sun, and this is something that helps you to get the bacteria that you need. You get it from the air, from the sun. So we eat different kinds of food. But it would be very good to look at what we are actually eating and what is a healthy and sacred life. Everyone wants that. It is not enough to be healthy. You also want to be joyful. A person who is joyful is almost a saint. There are not many people like this, but there are a lot who are trying to achieve it. Thus, I will continue in English and I will try to explain my thoughts. Yeah, quite a lot of people who speak English, and I know that Lithuanians also understand other languages. In the US, we are not as clever as you here in Lithuania.
In United States, which represents
The peak of technological advancement, especially in the food technology, and we thought also in academia and science of medicine. Our late President Johnson was giving a speech about 25, maybe 30 years ago on the health of the nation. He never read the speech before, and he almost fell over when he was now announcing to the world what he thought was going to be a bragging event. It turned to be out a very shameful declaration how sick we Americans were. 65%, that means 65 people out of 100 were sick with medically dependent disease, not like a cold or a headache. This required severe intervention, and they thought that it was going to be a disease of maintenance with medical assistance. You might be able to live with that disease for many years and make lots of money for the doctors. And 25% of the children were suffering likewise of old age diseases, cancer, arthritis, rheumatism, diabetes. That was very shocking. We were 42nd in anticipated longevity after the age of 40. So he said, the president, to the Surgeon General report, go out, take no restrictions, explore everything, and find out why we are such a sick nation. They came back around 10 years later with a very thick report. It was about 3 times thicker than my book, about 1,000 pages. And in it, so that you don't miss the most important issues, in the beginning, the holistic model was introduced to United States as well as the world. I thought it was old stuff among the alternative medical community, among the yogic community, among the Ayurvedic community, among the vegan community. But it was new stuff for the mainstream. And that set the theme for the future. And that was, as far as wellness and health, do not anticipate any help from your doctors or your hospitals or any scientific breakthrough. The whole issue of wellness and health resides in 5 basic principles that are totally within your control. And all of them are important. And if you neglect one, it will destroy you eventually. So they are all important. They cannot be neglected. And in summary, I will state them, and then we will go into details. One is diet. And I say, take the dye out of the diet, which is a good direction to go. That means go live food. But we will talk a little more. Karen gave you a great presentation of the way of managing your transition into ever superior state by playing with detoxification, continued nutritional improvements, as well as many of the other modalities. The second was exercise. The third one was rest. And the fourth one was your attitude. And the fifth was environment. Let us take a look at each one and try to see both from our clinical experience, such as Hippocrates and many other similar centers around the world, which currently they are found in every country in the world, live food centers, even though it might be at some places just a restaurant and a meetup group like Raw, 42nd Street, and others that I'm not aware of in Lithuania. Diet has been looked at, anything that enables you, according to traditional nutritionists, to enable you to live through the day is considered adequate nutrition, provided 2 things are met, they said. One is, does it provide enough energy for you to participate in your JOB world, just above broke? 2, will you be able to produce children on this diet? Well, what has happened? Every generation since introduction of the canning, the freezing, and the processed foods, every generation was becoming more and more tired. And we have a nation where right now the food is not supplying the energy. Matter of fact, the food that people are eating is the #1 reason for the fatigue. And what we have is the dependence on all kind of alkaloids, namely coffee, cigarettes, they're all stimulants, cocaine, marijuana, LSD, psychotropic drugs that are coming out of our medical community, which are causing more harm than the street drugs. We have now on our television shows weekly programs just on medical drug addiction and how they are killing off people. We even got into a funny situation on our television where practically every other commercial is for some form of medication, and after they tell you about the potential benefits of the medicine, then they'll give you another 30 potential dangers associated with this medicine. It's like playing roulette. And why this medicine comes about? Because the other commercials are trying to get you to eat food that will quickly accelerate not only the aging process, but also move you into clientele for the medical community. They work hand in hand, as Brian so brightly brought out about how the fast food, processed food industry inoculates every one of their products with something that has a unique addictive component, so that they use different drugs in McDonald's hamburgers from the Burger King. And if I watched the television show and I thought, wow, I'm going to have more fun in my life if I eat McDonald's, Burger Kings, and I burger hamburgers, and I go out and purchase this. They spend over $100 million a year advertising this product. Well, I go out and I buy it. And I love it. It's fun. It makes me energized because it's all filled with all these chemicals that make you crazy energy. And then I get withdrawal reactions from these drugs, and I need another fix. So I say I'm going to get another burger. But if I went over to Burger King and I ate their burgers, guess what? I'm not going to feel the same effect as I felt on McDonald's. That's the nature. This way, they get you hooked to brand addiction. Brilliant, brilliant. Yes, brilliant way of destroying a culture and a nation. The processed food consumption is so extensive. According to Mercola, the average American outside of the home, and most people eat outside of their home, 95% of the food they eat is processed food. We have a nation that is melting down due to the extreme consumption of acidity. All commercial foods, processed foods, that includes also lovingly cooked with blessings and all, vegan and other cooked foods, they're acidic, though less so than the processed foods. And we need, if we take a look at the dietary appropriate orientation, we just need to look to nature. The interesting thing about natural element is that animals in the wild, number one, They eat food appropriate to their physiology and biology. If you have different claws versus nails, you have sharp teeth of a wolf or a tiger, you will have different preferences than a sheep or a cow, and even the preferences of animals that look a little like the super built studs out of Golden Gymnasium, the gorillas. They have a structure and a gastrointestinal tract like ours, and they eat in a certain way. And they're as strong as animals without ever going to a gymnasium. Nature makes you strong. The gymnasium helps to remind you of the possibilities of strength, vitality, and body development. And it's very helpful because we worked when we lived naturally to create our food, but the food gave you that perfect shape and form. So the gorilla eats greens, and we should too. It's perfect food that is totally structured for the human organism as it is for any anthropoid ape. The other animals do well on all kind of grasses, and others on animal protein. But they eat the whole flesh, not just the muscle. They eat the sweetmeats, and they eat it raw, and that makes all the difference. But our body does not have the structure or the ability to handle successfully animal protein. To eat especially that has been cooked. Harvard Medical University, one of the great study centers, yet also quite often misleading, but occasionally very honest, very meaningful research comes out to the public domain. In May 23rd, 2002, New York Times, which is a very prestigious journal, highly respected throughout the world, a whole section in the science department was spent on a presentation on the research from the Harvard University. They found that the cooked standard American diet is creating within 100% of the people who are living on it flooding of the body, the bloodstream, the lymphatic, with incompletely metabolized protein, which is creating an inflammatory condition, an aggravation, increase in temperature, and burning out and tying up the immune system function so it does not have the energetics for ongoing rejuvenation, detoxification, and protecting you against the environmental contaminants. What is even more interesting is, why is this happening? Why flooding of incompletely metabolized protein in all degenerative diseases? They listed 30 of them. Cancer, diabetes, leukemia, arthritis, rheumatism, etc. Alzheimer's disease. I saw on a cover of Time magazine, it was all about Alzheimer's. And guess what? Once again, they found that the brain of Alzheimer's diseased individuals was saturated with incompletely metabolized, they call it rubberized protein. It was interfering with biological functioning. proteins of that sort get into your body because you are becoming, year by year, from birth, continue to decline on your enzymatic reserves. Animals in the wild that have no degenerative diseases, they live exclusively on enzymatic nutrition. That is nutrition that is uncooked, unheat treated. Enzyme is the flagship nutrient that is the one that falls apart the easiest when heat is applied. A low temperature of 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a little hotter than a bathtub, is enough within a half an hour to disorganize the protein so that a seed such as wheat or rye or sunflower, which is kept in this 120-degree water, will not grow, will not sprout, will not germinate. The enzymes have been disorganized. Now one would say, according to our whole history of tradition, we've been cooking. This is nonsense. We don't need enzymes. I had the good fortune to work as well as co-author a book with Dr. Edward Howell called Food Enzymes for Health and Longevity. We had over 500 biological research, clinical study documentations. And Dr. Howell concluded that a time will come when we will once again discover that we made a major health miserror in our evolution by introducing fire as a tool for preparation of our meals. And now, today, the medical science is proving what we have discovered way over 50 years ago under the tutelage and leadership of Wigmore, that live food, like Jesus said, from life comes life, from death comes death. And if you are consuming living food, you will have life and rejuvenation of your life, depending on how much are you consuming of live enzymatic nutrition versus how much you are consuming of the dead food. The more you consume of live food, the more dramatic is the regeneration. They have been able to take the enzymes that are created in very high volumes by probiotics, by Aspergillus oryzae fungus, and many microbial cultures, and grow them and then isolate them, dry the liquids away, and have it in a powder form mixed with in proper composition, and you have enzymes in capsules. This was one of the magic bullets that Dr. Howell, Edward Howell, introduced many years ago, since his early exploration with enzymes in capsules, because he looked for the magic bullet, and enzyme seems to be just a component that can create miraculous results. And it will give you recovery and give you some degree of youthfulness and increased longevity. But the full impact of successful, healthy, long life is on the holistic model, immersed in detoxification. Karen's beauty shines very well against any of the Hollywood crowd. It has to do with detoxification. And detoxification is the Vogue. And I mean the Vogue journal as an example. June, July issue of the Paris French version, which is the largest. On the cover was Giselle Bunchkin, top model in the world. 3 pages were devoted not only to raw foodism, cleansing and detoxification. She has been immersed in it now during the last 3 years. She wants to have a much longer career, not only a career as a youthful beauty, but also a healthy, vibrant, performing athlete, as well as a mother and a leader for cultural change. So, enzymes, how important are they when they are missing? Dr. Gerson, one of the early pioneers in the 1920s and 30s, he said in his classic book, 50 Cases of Cancer Treated Successfully, every form of cancer is preceded by pancreatic insufficiency in enzyme production. And he put the people, the clients who had cancer, some of them 4th stage, and he had excellent results on an alkaline enzyme active nutritional program. It did not regenerate these individuals, but it did keep them out of having the cancer being their death sentence. It was reabsorbed, overcame. They had a program that was early inspiration for new ongoing research. And we experimented with the direction set by Gerson, by other pioneers, and in particular, Anne Wigmore's, her personal experience. And we found that there are more ways to improve it. And the improvement stemmed for rejuvenating the biomarkers of life itself. And that was not only re-enzymizing, but not to just to get enough enzymes to get by. No, no. We want the enzymatic levels of youth, of 18, 14, 12. Because the enzyme levels decline. The average 70-year-old individual has the enzyme levels lost over 90% what they had when they were teenagers. Enzymes are used up not only in the digestive process, they are involved also in your immune function and every metabolic reaction. Over 5,000 enzyme systems are there. They orchestrate every process of your life. You might be said to be a symphony of enzymes. For every second, there are 10 by 27 zeros. That's a very big number of chemical reactions happening in your body every second. And every one of them involve 2 things. It involves an enzyme, and it involves oxygen for energy, as well as some form of caloric resources. So enzymes decline, and yet you can rejuvenate through highly concentrated enzymatic foods. Now, Gerson used a therapeutic program with very high results. However, not everybody was recovering. And I have to say that just because diseases can recover and be reversed, as John Christopher, a famous herbalist, said, every disease is curable, but not every personality is. There are many people, because of lack of holistic model, have thrown in and deciding to check out, even when the best solutions are being offered to them. And we have to almost honor them, because we need to realize healing is a very personal experience. All we can do is educate, support, but it's like you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't drink it for the horse. No more can you make a human drink wheatgrass and eat sprouts. You can tell them all the benefits. So some people do, some don't. Even in my own family, my own cousin, 10 years younger, 60, she had 4th stage breast cancer. I said, you don't need to bother with the cut burn. I says, come on, let's have some fun at Hippocrates. Brian was kind enough to help out with the arrangements, and we went to Hippocrates. In a week, she learned enough, though most people would stay 3 weeks, but she had to go back to take care of her elderly mother. And she loved the program. She became a little, they call it now as a Western medical disease, she became orthorexic, which means in the field of mental disorders, now it's a disease, individuals who try to do everything correct to maintain life are considered sick and addicted. So we have a situation. She did not only the food, the supplements, the exercise. She loved to exercise 2 hours a day, sculptured her body, and meditated. She loved reading, intellectual stimulating of the brain, not romance now, but things that challenged her. At 70, she looks like half her age, very similar what you have seen here with Karen and others. Excellent. It is very interesting how time fast flies when you're having fun. Brian likes to use that word sexy. Well, that is something about these lifestyles. They make you sexy. And she had more than her share. Much, much younger men, because the old ones just do not come up to par. Rejuvenation at whatever age, just like I mentioned my dear old friend who wrote a book, Dud at 70, Stud at 80. Men, women become younger, fertile. You do not have to throw away your youth. So diet, enzymatic, therapeutics as an example. Chinpo Kim treated successfully all forms of cancer with enzymes, with 79% success, 5-year follow-ups with peer reviews. Dr. number one killer, it's soon to be, that is cancer. And cardiovascular diseases, Dr. Max Wolf of Fordham University, again, treated and had 95% success with all forms of cardiovascular diseases. Now it is seen that every disease, enzymes are involved. In particular, the American Medical Association, even in 1960, they said probably all degenerative diseases are due to missing or faulty enzymes. And Harvard, and that was in 1960, and Harvard Medical School said now all degenerative diseases are due to enzymeless diet. That was in 2002. Hippocrates Health Institute pioneered the enzymatic nutrition of the highest concentration. Where's the highest concentration of enzymes? First, it is in fermented foods, sauerkraut, sea cheeses, kimchi, Rejuvilac. Then it is found next in concentration in soaked seeds. Then it is in germinated seeds. Then it is in baby greens. These are the highest. The vegetables that you buy at the grocery store, they are old foods. They are not filled with enzymes, though they have enzymes, and it is better to consume that than to have it cooked. But they are not young like the germinated seeds. So those are highest enzyme. And also now, not only enzymatic, but also alkaline food is of importance, as I mentioned. In our country, Dr. Oz is one of the most popular doctors. He was on Oprah. Many of you know her. Many, many times. And what he said, at one time he used to be an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Now it is not the case at all. No, he said, to stay away from doctors, you have to stay alkaline in your body. And how do you alkalize? You make green soups or green salads every day. Our athletes, when the ones who were interviewed for the during the Olympic period, they said, what did you eat for breakfast? Green smoothie. What did you eat for lunch? Big, huge green salad with a little bit of meat. What did you have for supper? Big green salad again. That is, green is the power food. And we share with you, pioneered by Ann Wigmore and myself and many of my colleagues here, the sprout and indoor gardening that I want to see all of you growing this year so that you won't have a white Christmas, you will have a green Christmas on your face, in your bloodline, in your food. Move over, blue blood. It's the green blood that is going to be the one of strength, intellectual development, as well as sacred power that will lead our planet once again to a place, a world of peace. Instead of the ravages of the violence, of the destruction of nutrition, when you cook, you destroy the nutrients and you become crazy. And you fight over trivial. You argue over nothing. You go out and beat up your wife, or the wife kicks the kids around. That is not a world of peace. When you start being loving to yourself, that means learning how to love your body. Then you will have loving relationships, both in terms of becoming healthy, happy, and holy. And holy is not a saintly label. It just means wholesome. Everything is in harmony. Everything is in balance. Never too much, never too little. And you become synergistic so that you're in the flow and everything seems to work out always okay. No negative thoughts, no negative interference, and everything is an opportunity to grow, a challenge, but never a problem. So be happy, don't worry, chew a lot, and keep chewing. It'll make your face young by chewing the greens. Have you ever seen any of the chewing grass cows looking old? They all look the same, year after year. It's the chewing action. And also you will have the wisdom of a cow. You think they're stupid? They have a great life when it's in the wild. So let's let our cows go wild. Don't take them to the butcher. Let nature take care of its life forms. All are important, just as you and me, the worms, the butterflies, the monkeys, the cows, everything is important in the scheme of things to make our planet sustainable. I love you. May God bless you.
Ačiū Viktorai. Ačiū Viktorai. Atsistokim visi, padėkokim šitam.
Thank you, Viktoras. Let's all stand up and thank Viktoras. Viktoras is a Lithuanian. He is the beginner of this movement together with Anne Wigmore. Thank you, Viktoras. Thank you all.
Ačiū labai. Sauliau, gal galėtum vandens Viktorui buteliuką atnešti, nes mes dar turim keletą minučių klausimams ir atsakymams.
We still have a few minutes for questions and answers.
Which consists of two parts and it's a little bit of an introduction. So I know a girl whom is a dear friend of mine, and she used to be a very cheerful, joyful girl, loving life, but 6 months ago she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I came back just on Sunday and I went to visit her, and it's not the same woman that I fell in love some time ago, and now she's living in her own world of sadness, depressed, and I think she's like not actually even willing to live this life anymore. And she started to drink, smoke. She's taking loads of medicines, and I'm sort of the only person that she talks with. So now my question is this disease really incurable? And the second part is, how should I approach her and introduce all this, not shutting the doors, because she's on the verge. So
Labai svarbu.
It is very important to surround her with your love. The power of love is great.
Yeah. So that the power, the question was, someone was down for the count, has more or less given up
On themselves and has declined to, with MS, to continue on even more accelerated dying process. In order to life to maintain, we have to find the reason for living. And that is what is the task of the healer. If you're going to be successful, you have to jumpstart the motivations. So you can be very pleasant. You can do a lot of loving things, such as massage, Reiki, aura, acupuncture, non-invasive type of therapies. But these are still Band-Aids. The person is bleeding, hemorrhaging, because there is lack of love for themselves. They have had a long history of self-abuse, and it's very hard to turn that tidal wave of hatred, loathing, and anger for yourself. Most people live in that nightmare. So how to awaken a passion for life? I wish to share with you Dr. Jensen, a world-famous iridologist. Many of you have seen his books. He had cancer 3 times. And first time, he healed it with wheatgrass and live food. And then he went back. It was a cure for him. He forgot the message. And he went back to, again, cooked veganism, the stress of travel. He got his second cancer, and this time he used the VE Irons program, which was, again, wheatgrass in powder, capsules, enzymes, detox system, and he overcame it. Then, again, he was a happy camper, busy, forgetting everything, and once again, he's got cancer. Now this time, it's prostate cancer. His body withers to 85 pounds. I remember seeing him a robust 185-pound man. So he lost over 100 pounds, his skin and bones. And nobody wanted to touch him from the health healer's point of view. They were afraid, you know, it doesn't look good if you're a healer and you're the last one to treat him and he dies. So they avoided him. But this crazy enzymologist, naturopath doctor, who was a friend of the family, was invited by his wife to have a discussion, a clinical evaluation. He saw that the first thing he had to do was jumpstart his motivation for life. He had already tossed in the towel. He was ready to check out. So, you know what he said to him? He says, Dr. Jensen, it's not going to look good in your legacy that you have been able to help and, as one would say, to heal themselves thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, and you can't help yourself. You're not going to look too good because of that. Well, that lit a spark. He didn't like to have that happen. So, the next stage, not only live food, but he was consuming several hundred enzyme pills, also probiotic pills, and the man not only rejuvenated himself, regained his weight, but by luck, he ended up being hit by a truck while driving his Cadillac, which ended up killing him. So at least he did not die from disease. Now, so motivation, what can one do with MS? It's an acidic condition, depletion of enzymes, and also acidic development in the body. So the electrovoltage potential is not as strong. It's like the prelogue to MS is chronic fatigue, general fatigue. Eventually, you have systemic muscle relaxation. You don't have the strength. Eventually, you get localized paralysis. You get many of all the modalities of names upon names of medicine, but it really comes down to enzymeless and also alkaline diminished reserves. So if one could replenish them, you could create miracles. So you might try to find the dreams the person has had for life everlasting, for future, that he might want to get engaged, but discover something that will want them to live. It might be because of the grandchildren that they have, or it might be an unfinished artwork, or a career and research that they have been conducting, but now they've been cut short from it. Kind of start playing with their memory and desire and motivation. And then get them on green juices, get them on fermentations, but the green juices is important. When you're doing green juices, you will realkalize them into such a high levels, at the same time slowly building their enzymatic reserves, and then you can start also immersing them into higher intake of the fermented foods. Sad to say, they are acidic, but your body has a high tolerance. Like at one time, I could not drink, like for instance, maybe a tablespoon of sauerkraut. Later on, because of realkalizing, I could consume a whole quart of sauerkraut and feel good. Realkalizing, reenzymizing, and you will see the great potential of recovery.
Gal daugiau dar klausimų? Ačiū, Viktorai. Kas turite dar klausimų, Viktorai?
Greičiau pabandysiu.
Aš norėčiau vieną klausimą. Gerbiamui mūsų lietuvių žmogui. Reiškia, tai yra, jis kaip tik ką tik minėjo, kad rauginti produktai labai sveikai veikia organizmą. Norėčiau pasakyti, kad lietuvių tauta dabar daug geria alaus. Netatanus alaus. Bet šviesus alus, reiškia, jis yra rauginamas irgi. Kokią įtaką jis organizmui daro šviesus alus?
Yeah, microbrewery, right? Yeah. Alus. Yeah. Žinoma, kai alų darai, tai, žinai,
When you make beer, of course, you can later on drink this product, but the problem is that people abuse alcohol and then they simply become stupid. Because, alcohol messes up with your mind. Because I tried drinking beer and it just makes me feel sleepy. Beer is poison, alcohol is poison. But of course, at the same time, you also get enzymes and B complex and probiotics. However, you get more yeast that helps to produce beer. There are a lot of books that talk about it. One French doctor wrote a book.
51 therapeutic reasons for wine. Unpasteurized wine, it's like the tinctures you buy at the health food store.
many people get a little intoxicated with that too. But it has some benefits, just like the caffeine that is residing in nature in so many plants. People drink green tea, they drink black tea, and in small amounts, it could have a very empowering effect. But we have to go behind the shadows. These are non-nutrients, and they put a stress on the organisms, the caffeines as an example, or the alcohol that is mixed with the beer, and beer fermented concoction, and your immune system has to detoxify them. There is a book a journal that comes out every month, that is called Natural Toxins in Food. And the only reason that the foods are not poisoning you is as long as you have high enough of enzymatic reserves and you can clean up the undesirable segments of the food by the immune enzymatic action, you will be able to thrive and do relatively well. That includes people are thriving and doing very well, many up to 80, 90 and older uncooked food. But can you imagine if these people did not have that stress of cooked food, they were living on all live food, they would be at 90, not even reaching the mid-age crisis. They would be just getting started in wisdom and life process. So it is not the worst thing in the world. If you're going to choose to have some beer, I will suggest the following. First of all, it's best to have it on an empty stomach or else with salad, never with fruit, and never with starchy foods. And at the same time, not to drink it ice cold if you're eating with a meal because it stops the digestive action. And at the same time, it's nothing to be done more than once every couple years. Ha!
Tai kągi, ačiū Viktorai, ačiū labai Viktorui. Ir aš dabar noriu.
Thank you very much for your contribution, Viktoras.